This is the first video that I've ever uploaded about F1, and it will probably be the last one because I have never covered F1 on my channel, right? My channel is full of gaming and just stupid internet drama, right? And I love it. I do. But I had to make this video because what conspired over the weekend to me is just like one of the most legendary moments in recent F1 time, right? It is. It really is. But before we do get into this video, a little bit of backstory on me, okay? Is that like, I am not like the biggest F1 fan in the world, okay? For a long period of time in my life, I was definitely more of a casual F1 fan, okay? Very much a casual F1 fan. I always kind of knew what was going on. I do like sport, like I watched several different sports, right? But with F1, I kind of knew what was going on. And having ancestors that are Italian migrants here in Australia, so like my grandparents from my dad's side, they did migrate from Italy. So I grew up as a bit of a Ferrari fan. Of course, being Italian, of course, you're going to fucking love Ferrari. I mean, it's no shot. And so obviously me growing up as well, Michael Schumacher was my GOAT, okay? Still is. Of course, some people are going to say, no, it's Lewis Hamilton. But I mean, what can you say? I grew up as a Ferrari boy. I grew up as an Italian boy. Of course, I'm going to be biased when it comes to Schumacher, right? But in recent times, especially this year, I have like dug my teeth more into F1, especially this year, to the point where I have become fully invested into it. Before the season started, and even at the start of the season, I was watching F1 videos up the fucking wazoo. My main two channels being Rick's F1 addiction and then Rocket Powered Mohawk, who needs to fucking upload videos more, right? Those are my go-to to like get my knowledge on all of F1, right? I know more about F1 now than I have known about it my entire life. And especially being here in Australia, it's really hard to watch a lot of the races because they are on at really dumb times. But this year, like I said, is I've become invested into it. And yesterday was Silverstone. Silverstone is one of the most prestigious races out of the whole entire F1 calendar. It's been around since the start. To me, it's like almost as iconic as Monaco. Like Monaco, I would still think that Monaco is the most iconic, but to me, it gets knocked down because of how fucking boring that race is. Honestly, the qualifying for Monaco is like 20 times more exciting than the actual race is. But Silverstone, it's a great race. It is a great race. It's a great track. And this weekend, it was building up to be something big. It really was. The whole entire weekend, from practices into qualifying, especially P3. Once the end of P3 started to get around, I saw Bortoletto when he crashed, and then Ollie Behrman when he was coming into the pit lane, he crashed, and the weather, apparently it was going to start like heavily raining on the day. I fucking knew that like something was going to go down. And then in qualifying as well, we saw Franco Colapinto. He crashed, who is probably going to end up getting replaced sooner rather than later. So coming into the race day, I was like, damn, this is going to be big. Something's going to happen. There's going to be some crashes, and there's going to be a lot of place changing, all right? Somehow Max Verstappen managed to pull the fucking tractor that is the RB21 across the finishing line in qualifying into P1. I don't know how he did it. No one knows how he's done it. He's 100% leaving Red Bull next year and going to Mercedes, right? But all the way down in 19th was Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg is a racer who has been around since 2010. This man has had 239 starts, including this weekend at the Silverstone Grand Prix in Formula One. He was the longest reigning person of when it came to the amount of starts in F1 without getting into a podium. And this week, it just seemed like it was going to happen again. It just seemed as though Nico Hülkenberg was just going to end up and probably like maybe not even get into the points. But even though he was starting in 19, recently he was actually kind of looking good this year, despite driving the green tractor in the Kick Sauber, has actually not been looking that bad this year. And even over the past few weeks, he has started like outside the points, like his qualifying really hasn't been the best, but he has been able to gain a lot of places of when it comes to race day over the last few races. So it was still like, you know, even though he was starting in 19th, it was still like to keep an eye out for him. And then when the formation lap finished, we had a few of the cars that decided to pit to go from intermediate tires to slicks, which to me, and even now in hindsight, it was a dumb move. Like, I don't understand, especially the fact that, like, I heard Oscar Piastri over the radio. He was saying that those last two turns of the track were still like decently wet and to stay on the intermediates. And the fact that there was going to be rain at some point down the line, I don't understand of why these drivers decided to change the slicks. But obviously them changing to slicks, just like, you know, it put everything out of place. Nico Hülkenberg was no longer, you know, technically sitting last because you had these cars. I think it was like 3 or 4 cars that decided to go into the pit lane and change their tires. And of course, one being Ferrari, who just always seemed to fuck up strategy one way or another. And obviously as the race got underway, we had a few crashes very early. I mean, Franco Colapinto, man, didn't even end up starting the race. Liam Lawson ended up crashing out. Gabriel Bortoleto, he crashed. Isaac Hadjar, he rammed it into the back of Kimi Antonelli because he couldn't see shit by the amount of rain that was coming down. Safety cars were pulled out. And after one of the safety cars came out, as it was going back into the pit lane, Oscar Piastri decided to slam on his fucking brakes. And because he slammed on his brakes, he threw off Max Verstappen. And as Max Verstappen decided to try and get going, obviously his tires were way too cold because that's what Oscar was trying to do. All right. The reason why Oscar put on his brakes so hard is because how he was trying to reduce the temperatures of Max's tires so that when he got started back up, his tires weren't as warm and it was going to be harder for him to get going again, which Oscar did to succeed in it, causing himself a 10-second penalty, which at first I was just like, I don't really know if Oscar deserves a 10-second penalty. And then after watching it again and then hearing as well about how fast, like Oscar, like I'm not sure exactly what speed he was going, but the amount of like PSI that he put into the brakes, I think it was 60 PSI that he slammed on the brakes on. I still do think, all right, maybe it's because I'm an Aussie, even though I'm a Ferrari supporter. All right, Ferrari, because they are not going to win this year. Charles Leclerc's not going to win anything. Lewis Hamilton's not going to win anything. You know, Ferrari, we're probably not even going to finish. I think we're second at the moment. That's not that. You know what? Wouldn't surprise me if somehow, you know, Mercedes goes above us, or even fucking the Max Verstappen Red Bull ends up going above us as well, right? So I'm hoping for an Oscar Piastri win this year. So call me biased, but I think that a 5-second penalty would have been fine enough, okay? I don't think that 10-second penalty was a lot. But because Max Verstappen ended up spinning out, it put him some places behind, which then allowed Nico Hülkenberg in order to push into his place. And I'm just going to say this is that, like, obviously, you can see on the screen while you're watching the race of, like, each places. But I didn't even know that Nico was gaining this much. I don't think many people, unless you're like directly watching the places and watching Nico Hülkenberg go up in the ranks, is that you didn't really notice how much traction this man was gaining for the fact that he started 19th on the grid, obviously got bumped up because a lot of these people decided to, you know, go into the pit lanes after the formation lap. But the amount of places that this man was able to gain during the race was fucking insane. Like, he just out of fucking nowhere with like 35 laps into the race, this man speeds past Lewis Hamilton in the green. It was tractor v tractor, and this man just said, nah, fuck you, and came straight past Lewis Hamilton in his home race. Lewis Hamilton has gotten a podium in Silverstone, I think since 2013. He has been on the podium every single time. This man has won Silverstone a record 9 times. Lewis Hamilton has won at Silverstone, and this man speeds right goddamn fucking past him in this green tractor, and he held onto the lead the whole entire time. Like, it was absolutely crazy to watch. Like I said, is that as much as I'm a Ferrari fan, I love Ferrari. Right? I grew up liking Ferrari, and obviously as I started to get more into, you know, Formula One, I'm not going to switch teams. All right. I'm not someone to switch teams. I grew up liking Ferrari because I grew up with Italian, my immigrant grandparents. So of course, as an Italian man, I'm going to go ahead and go for Ferrari. I used to go, there was a restaurant here in Melbourne, down Lygon Street in Carlton, and Carlton is a very infamous spot in Melbourne. It's like Italian town, right? There's a restaurant that I used to go to where a small Ferrari F1 replica would hang from the ceiling. But even though I wanted Ferrari to win and I wanted Ferrari to do well, I'm fine with Nico Hülkenberg coming through in third place. I was fine when he passed Lewis Hamilton. I was just like, holy shit, this man, he's gonna do it. He's actually gonna I can't fucking believe this. And a lot of people, including myself as well, because like I've said, is that I was mostly a casual F1 enjoyer. And then when I started to like look into it, the amount of shit that Nico has gone through over the years is crazy. If you just look at this man's career and the amount of bullshit that he has had to deal with is insane. This man started his career back in 2010 with Williams. Williams is extremely historical of when it comes to Formula One, right? But in recent years, pretty much ever since Ayrton Senna in the 90s, ever since he tragically passed away, Williams has basically been nothing. Then he went into Force India, which is a team that only lasted like 10 years in the Formula One. And I think they had a total of 6 podiums altogether in those 10 years. Then he went to Sauber for 1 year, back to Force India for a couple of years. Then after Force India, he went to Renault, which Renault, just like Williams, it was like once a staple inside Formula One. They have not been good ever since Fernando Alonso was dancing on top of their cars in the late 2000s. And now they're unfortunately been rebranded as Alpine, and they just have like a whole load of fucking messes in themselves. But during the time that Nico Hülkenberg was there, Renault was just a complete mess. Then he was like reserve driver for a couple of years. Then he rejoined Haas in 2023 to 2024. And Haas, they are just a secondary team to Ferrari. Just like the Racing Bulls, they're just their second team. That's all Haas basically is, right? But then this year, he returned to Sauber. And Sauber this year have actually been decent. For the last like few years, they have been the biggest joke in Formula One. Even I know that as someone who was a relatively casual fan, right? And then when I started to look into them, I was like, damn, Sauber's a piece of shit. They really are. But now that they are being bought out and transferred over into Audi, I think that there are a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes, okay? Because like, not just the drivers, because Nico, he is a good driver. Even though he's been dealing with tractors his whole entire career, he still has been over his career a solid driver. Gabriel Bortoleto is looking like an extremely good rookie. I would say Kimi Antonelli has been the best rookie this year. Mainly because of the fact that he's driving Mercedes. And then it's Isaac Hadjar and then Gabriel Bortoleto. And the fact that Gabriel Bortoleto is doing extremely well in this fucking green tractor, they're doing some things behind the scene. Audi is doing some amazing things behind the scene of when it comes to transferring Sauber from Kick over to them. And it's starting to pay off. It really is. They did terrible last year. Sauber only scored 4 points. 4 points last year, putting them dead last in the Constructors' Championship. Meanwhile, this year they have scored 41 points. It is insane how well they are doing this year. And some of that has to go to Nico Hülkenberg. And the fact that he is now taken, it took him 239 races to finally put himself on an F1 podium. This man deserves every single second of it. But I do feel sorry for him to a certain extent for the fact that this man took 239 races, 15 years for him to finally get on a podium, and he gets a Lego trophy. I liked the fact that they had Lego trophies, but why is it that like when it came to Lando Norris, he got them obviously the main trophy of when it comes to Silverstone? You know, they have a very iconic trophy around that for that circuit. And I think that if they wanted to hand out, you know, Lego trophies, do what they did with Lando. Give the actual trophy and then just give a small little Lego replica. Why is it the main trophy for second and third as well? Come on. I mean, I heard the interview after the race that he had with Oscar Piastri, and Oscar Piastri said to him, he's like, how do you feel the fact that it took you 15 years to get on a podium and you got a Lego trophy? Nico Hülkenberg's reply to it was, yeah, my daughter can play with the trophy. It's such a humble moment for that. It's such a great moment. But still, even when I was watching it on TV and I was just like, is that actually the real trophy? Wait, the real trophy's a Lego trophy? Like, I thought they were just handing that out to Norris as like here's a secondary thing to, you know, because of the collaboration that F1's been having with Lego this year, right? Yeah, that's great that they put it, but then when I saw it was the second and third trophy too, and it was the main trophy, I'm like, oh fuck, oh fucking Nico, oh I feel bad for this guy. Like, I know apparently like it does have real silver, real gold in the trophies or whatever, but I still feel bad for the man. 15 years, and it's a Lego trophy. But you know what? Still deserved. Still, I hope the F1 should make a trophy for him. All right, the F1 should be like, fuck yeah, we got to make an actual trophy for him. But man, this weekend was legendary. It was actually a really good race too. Like, I like when it rains during the F1. You know, it makes it more exciting. It makes it more unpredictable. You know, there was a lot of pit stops, a lot of different strategies that were going on over the weekend. You know, that's what makes F1 exciting. You know, whenever it rains, you see Lance Stroll. He goes from being, you know, the jam licker to the second coming of fucking Michael Schumacher. And then once it goes back into dry, he starts licking windows again. Despite that, it was a good weekend. It really was. And I definitely know that somewhere in the world, somewhere, wherever Daniel Ricciardo is, he is out there screaming, Nico Hülkenberg. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know about this weekend down below. That's going to be it from me. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Peace out.